Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is my feature author of the month of August. No other than Mr. Mike Wysocki. And of course, he's award-winning author and entertaining speaker on career readiness. Welcome, Mr. Mike. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Thank you, Daniel. Yes, I thoroughly appreciate it, and I'm honored to be a guest on your show. My name is Mike Wysocki. I published the award-winning book "Careers by the People." It's 101 careers by the people that actually work them. So we can talk a lot about that, as well as the intro and the conclusion about how I should prepare myself for the workforce.
Mr. Mike Wysocki, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom today. Tell us, why is it important to you to gather a career advice directly from a massive cohort of 101 professionals rather than writing a book based solely on your own expertise or traditional theories?
Wow, great question, Daniel. The reason why is so many people, when they choose a career, they don't do a lot of homework. And on the flip side, when they think or learn about or hear about other careers, again, it's all guesswork. They never do really any homework about what's it like to be in the life of an electrical engineer. So, in my view, I went out there and I asked 101 people in different occupations, what's it like to be in their occupation? Each person was asked 20 questions, the majority of 5+ years in their field, and their CEOs, actuaries, accountants, all over the map. So I want people to understand is when you're thinking about entering any occupation, make sure you speak to people that are actually in the occupation so you have a better understanding of what you're getting yourself into.
How did you go about selecting these one-on-one professionals? Were
Well,
you
what
looking
happened
for?
is, what?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so what happened was when I was in technology sales, I wasn't having much joy in my occupation. So I thought about it and I'm like, you know what? I'll ask people what's it like to be in their occupation. So I built a database or had one built and had all these questions lined up. And so I reached out to so many people in a variety of occupations. And so for my first book, I decided on 101 careers. Just like when you go to school, you take English 101 or math 101. And so the choices on each of the careers, I broke it down to John Holland's occupational theme. So there's 6 different chapters, and there's about a dozen or so in each chapter. And so the fact about it is you're going to have people in the enterprise like your CEOs, actuaries, accountants, all of that, to people in a variety of other type of careers as well. So we have 6 different chapters and each career is broken down. So the good news was there was a lot of people that filled out the questionnaires, and I could, you know, fit them into each different category.
Interesting, Mr. Mike. Interesting indeed. The word candid is crucial in your title. How do you create an environment in your interviews that encourage truly honest, vulnerable, and non rehearsed answers about their career journeys, including the failures?
Yeah, and that's the thing about it is what I did was I took off the person's last name or put their last initial so they could be extremely truthful about being in the occupation. The last thing you'd want a CEO or any of the executives in the book is to get any blowback in their career because if they said anything negative about what they're doing, it could affect their occupation or affect them in their business. So the fact is, I asked everybody fill it out and I'll pull off your last name. And so I get clear and concise information because often you'll read or a school will bring in a speaker and it's the vice president of the local bank. And the vice president of the local bank will will be very vague because they don't want to lose their good gig. But in this situation is, I pulled off the last names, and people are like, yeah, I'll tell you whatever you want to hear. And some being great, and some of the careers were sad and depressing, and the people were unfulfilled because they didn't do their homework and they didn't prepare for a career they enjoy. So, yeah, so a lot of the questions were gut wrenching to many.
Mr. Mike, what is the most surprising or a piece of advice that emerged repeatedly from these conversations? Something that contradicts standard career guidance.
Well, I'd say here's the thing that I would say the most, and I don't know if it's contradicts it a lot because a lot of the things that I get involved in, there's not a lot of research and data about that. And my next book, I got some really interesting stuff. But the people that would seem like were happier or enjoyed their occupations were the ones that took risks and the ones that were challenged in what they were doing. And so those people were the happiest or the most content or had probably some of the best responses. Whereas the people that took the stereotypical basic job just to get a paycheck type job, they were extremely unhappy when they filled in their career questionnaires, and you could just tell it. And some of them were, you know, some of the people, it was so depressing. It was kind of comical in a sad sense because they were just like, ripping on their career or ripping on their industry or ripping on their job or their managers or something to that nature. And it was sad because they really weren't challenged. They were bored to tears and they just took the job because it was a paycheck. And so that was, it's kind of common sense in a sense, but most people usually try to take like a good gig that's close to the house or, pay the bills versus at least doing a little homework to get something that might challenge them so they can actually move up or move around in an industry.
Mr. Mike, despite their diverse path, was there a common challenge, fear, or moment of self doubt almost every professional, regardless of their success, or admitted to facing?
What do they fear the most? I
Yes,
mean,
please.
it's a stereotypical. It was the failure or the fear of the unknown or the confusion parts and all like that. But most of these people, it was just the fact is some were the more ecstatic ones were interesting, but actually the fear one you got me. Okay, now you get me thinking on that one because I was trying to like dig something out. Here was a great one. Chairman of the board, CEO types, their biggest fear was going backwards. So they always wanted to be a leader because they worked so hard to get in these positions. Their biggest fear or their biggest problem was if they looked for a new opportunity and it wasn't a CEO or chairman of the board type of opportunity, that's what they really feared. And that's what they said. They're like, you know what? I couldn't go backwards anymore because I've been to the top and this is where I want to be in my career. So with the big players, they loved it that they worked really hard and made it to the top of the heap. But their fear was having to go back and not, being at that level anymore. So, wow, great one. Nobody's ever asked me that question before. That's a good one. Thank you.
What was the one interview question you asked that consistently yielded the most powerful, revealing responses?
It's a usual, what don't you like about your occupation and all like that. So the positive ones, people are usually relatively responsible. I mean, usually more responsive too. But it was the ones that what do you dislike about what they're doing? And so because that's what I read a lot about in the book is my dislike for choosing the career I did because I didn't like technology, and some of the people had the same responses as well is that they choose the wrong profession, the wrong occupation, or the wrong industry, and there really was no, desire to go out and do the gig, and it was more or less just like they're just pushing the paper down the road until retirement. So that's what you'd see a lot. Was that one was a big one. The other funny one was, would you do the job again? And here's the funny one was would you do the same occupation again? Was like the second last question. And some people would sit there and they just sit there and tear apart their occupation. And then they said, yeah, sure. I just I couldn't comprehend it. If they disliked what they did so much, but yet they do it again. So those were the two that were just kind of like curveballs. So, yeah.
Mr. Mike, on the patterns and insights, how did the professionals talk about the role of luck, serendipity, or being in the right place at the right time?
Yeah. There was, well, the word I heard a lot was, and it's kind of irritating, was not, but they didn't say it that way. They always said they fell into it. Oh, I fell into this career. And sure, statistically, that can happen. Out of all the information I've read and researched is on, it's really 50% of people enjoy what they do. And so my argument with the students is if you do your homework, you can be in that batch of 50% of the people. But there are some that just happen to, they say, fall into it, the right place at the right time. And that was a percentage of them. But I mean, some people just have better luck than others. But I wouldn't, I always tell the students, I go, don't rely on luck, rely on your planning capabilities. Because sure, could you, land in an occupation just by chance? Of course, you never know. Or the person just accepted to whatever scenario they were in. But that was a common theme. Not as much as I expected, but people did mention it. It's like they're like, "Oh, I just fell into it. I just fell into it. It found me," and I'm like, "All right," but I mean, I really push the students and say, you have to do these steps. You have to plan out. You have to go out there and be prepared for the workforce and do some activities and learn what you want to do. Because if you just fall into it, it's too risky. It's too much of a chance. It's like somebody knocking on the door with $1 billion. Daniel, you and I hope for that every day, but it doesn't occur. So yeah. So
Definitely. So,
yeah.
how many of these successful careers were actually linear progression, and how many were messy, filled with pivots, lateral moves, or unexpected detours?
Yeah, most of them were actually relatively linear, but you had a few that people were just bouncing around. So the ones that filled it out, thank God, probably they were more invested in their career, or they wanted to talk or write a little bit more about what they're doing. But we here's the ones that I noticed a lot though, where people were jumping on what's hot, and that was a percentage of people. At the time, they're like, oh, I'm jumping into real estate because it's hot, or I'm doing mortgage brokerage because it's a hot career. And so you did see that often, not as much as expected, but people do that. They'd be bouncing industry left and right. And I was informing the students, and I go, you can do that. And there's a book written called Squiggly Line that talks about that. But when it comes to networking and getting through an industry, I was informing them, I go, if you find something that interests you, you can change. You can go from sales to operations to marketing, so you can bounce around an industry. But if you're going out there just picking and choosing what's hot, I go, you're not, you have to be a jack. You got to be a jack of all trades. Master of none. So the people that are mastering their industry is usually the ones that do better and financially better as well.
Mr. Mike, how many of these successful careers were actually linear progression, or something that are not aligned with their own values and their own profession?
Oh, the ones that were not aligned with their own values.
Yes.
Wow, yeah, that really didn't kind of pop up. I mean, a lot. I would say mostly the people in those occupations were the sales reps who were just in it for the money. So some people actually had some type of joy in their career, and they said money does play a role, but when it came to especially the people that were in the sales professions, that was a money-driven career only. Not the 20 of the salespeople said they enjoyed it; they just said they did it to pay the bills or to make some cash for the family. Whereas the people that were more aligned were the people that chose industries that actually interested them and kept them going. One person was an artist, actually, in a musician, and he just said, he's like, he goes, I can work 12 hours a day and go home, and he goes, I can still play on the guitar all night. So you do see that. Another one was an actor who obviously they enjoy that big time. And a lot of the people that are more in like the marketing types or the softer type of careers were happier in a sense. But a lot of the engineers as well. I mean, they liked what they did, and it kept them, their mind going, and it kept them moving up the ladder. So you see that as well.
What was the single most important piece of advice from the book for someone just starting out in their first or second job?
Okay, so in that situation, that's where I put it in the intro and the conclusion. I talked to the students about how to prepare for the real world. And examples that I use are shadowing. Go out there in whatever industry interests you, spend time with people in the industry, in their world. If you want to be an electrical engineer, see what it's like to be an electrical engineer and spend time in that field. Do an internship, a part-time job, volunteer, whatever it takes. And I always push them to speak to minimally 5 people in that career industry so they have a better understanding outside of their family. Don't want to get the rosy glasses from Uncle Jake, you know what I mean? But the other angle too is I say, speak to people who've left that industry as well. If your focus in your life depends on being an industrial engineer, find people in that industry who've left and ask them why. Say, that's the ultimate job. Why would you leave it? And those are the things I really try to do when I talk to the students is give them as much information of how to find opportunity and how to learn how to go out there and get it.
Mr. Mike, for someone feeling stuck or considering a major change after years in one field, what wisdom did you interview offer?
Yeah, in that situation, there's a lot of career changes out there, and that's one of the bigger um, subjects going around these days. And so I would go back to them and use the same basic rules and understanding is, go out there and network, talk to people in those industries, find, an occupation that you might enjoy, start doing it either like a part-time gig or starting it on the weekends or, start preparing yourself to understand that this transition is going to be big. You'll probably lose some money, but the fact is in time you might enjoy it. But make sure you're not jumping from one problem to another problem. Because what if they say, hey, I'm a cybersecurity engineer, but yet being a mortgage broker is going to make me a lot of money in 2 years? It's like, maybe, but do you know what it's like to be a mortgage broker? Do you have any understanding? And so I really push them to try to, instead of looking at these best jobs reports, I go meet with the people that are doing those occupations and make sure that you understand what it's like to do that. Because most people don't. They just see the dollar signs and they go for it. And so it shocks me consistently.
For the listener's journey, Mr. Mike, for someone feeling lost in their career, what is the first most actionable step by they should take after reading this book?
Okay, yeah. If they're lost in their career, I mean, they need to take a breather and they need to sit there and analyze and go, okay, what? Because I was lost in my career. I mean, I just did it for money for 30 something years, and I tried to bounce around the industry, but I management would never transfer me because I did well in sales, and so I just informed the person. I go, you're going to have to spend some time, alone time, and figure out what is best for you. And the way to do it is to do extensive research. And it's going to be before work, it's going to be after work, because you still have to pay the bills or on the weekends. And, people call it like side hustles these days. But find something that actually interests you that you can focus on, where you can start building it up on a small scale so you can actually start moving towards that on a full-time basis. Because it's tough. It's tough to transfer from, industry A to industry B. And you have to have all your ducks in a row. But the good news is if you have skills that you can transfer, and the majority of those skills are called soft or professional skills, and how can they transfer to the next opportunity? Working in teams, speaking publicly, writing, leadership, resolving issues, critical thinking, all of that. How can you explain those as well as what you've learned in your occupation, your career so far, and how can that transfer to another industry? And then it ties back to networking because 70% of jobs are found via networking through people you're connected to. So that would be it too. I'd say sit there and understand what you're getting yourself into, but make sure you start building a network because blind applying is you get a 30% chance versus a 70% chance. So why not go for the higher statistics?
Indeed, why not? And how can this book help someone break a habit of comparing their own behind the scenes reality to everyone else highlight reel on LinkedIn?
Yeah, there's a lot of information out there. Exactly. Like how come, people can compare, contrast, and learn. Well, the good thing here is they can read about all these different occupations, but again, with the intro and the conclusion, they can look into different ways and understanding to find out what is out there. But the other thing too is a lot of these people, you got to take everyone with a grain of salt. So many people say, "Oh yeah, I have the greatest gig ever." In front of a group, they'll say that, but one-on-one conversations, you get a lot more information about the person's happiness or their interest or how they enjoying their occupation. And so I would just tell them to do a lot of research. The other one too, as I mentioned, was the best jobs reports. I mean, I scoff at those consistently. I'll give an example. Every year, like anesthesiologists always wins is like the best job. But what if you don't like healthcare? The other thing too is the amount of income they show is minimal versus if somebody wants to be an investment banker or a venture capitalist or any vice president in corporate America. I mean, I talked to a student and she wanted to go into marketing. And I'm like, great, there's nothing wrong with marketing. She goes, well, I doesn't pay. And I go, really? Who'd you hear that from? And she wouldn't respond. Obviously, it was a family member. And I just did a lot of research for her. And I found out quickly that if you're a chief marketing officer in a top 100 corporation, Fortune 100, you can make up to $1 million a year. So I go, that throws that argument right there. So you do see a lot of information. People are so money driven, but even still, if it's a great paying job, find out what it's like so you can actually do it because you don't want to be in a great paying job and be miserable. So we see that a lot too. People just going for the gusto, the big money, and they don't understand what they're getting themselves into. So again, it goes back to, do your, part-time gigging, do your, what you call it, the shadowing, etc. So, yeah.
Mr. Mike, what is the powerful question from the book that would ask or would shall ask ourselves about our careers right now?
Yeah, I would have people just ask themselves, if they're in career, I mean, are they happy with it? Are they receiving some joy? I mean, is it total misery? If it's total misery, they better pivot and try to find something and start doing some homework about something that interests them. And finding a career or a job is very difficult. So you're either going to suck it up or you're going to go out there and spend your time in doing it. And so the people who are in occupations that they enjoy, I would say, do your reading, keep doing research, learn as much as possible in your industry as possible so you can start either moving up the ladder or at least keeping the opportunity because they'll see you as a trusted advisor. And if you're a younger person, I would say talk to as many people out there in industry that have been in industry 5 or more years. And younger people, for some reason, always talk to younger people. But there's nobody in high school or in college who has any idea what's it like to be an electrical engineer with 10 years of experience. So they have to go out there and speak to people in industry. I always tell them, I go, join an association. Associations are where all the people in those industries hang out and go to events. The other thing too is go to trade shows. Go to trade shows with industries that interest you because those are the people out there that are out there showing their wares and talking about what they're doing. So a lot of students I deal with, especially mostly students instead of the older people, is that a lot of them aren't doing that. They're not prepping. They're not reading books on their industry. They're not going out shadowing. They're not doing much in networking. They're just going out trying to get a degree and hopefully getting an internship and hoping for the best. But there's so many different other steps to do that people are skipping. So I just try to push them to do as many as possible. I mean, again, go on as many, listen to as many podcasts as you can about industries that interest you. So, something like yourself, I'd say check out Daniel's podcast and find out which ones align to things that interest you and listen to them, see what helps.
Indeed. And before we wrap up our discussion today, Mr. Mike, I'm inviting you to listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast law 101, and mental health 101, love letters in the third season, and mental movie 101 review and music 101 in fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Mike, based on the collective wisdom of 101 professionals, what does the future of successful and fulfilling career look like in our rapidly changing world?
Yeah, it's a great question. Everybody is so worried about the AI and all the other issues out there. But
True.
everything, it's funny. It's really the basics, because when I go back and I speak to the students and I think of myself, has anything really changed in 40 years? And it really hasn't. I mean, sure, different careers have popped up, different careers have left us, but it all boils down to, I mean, people are either going to be go-getters or they're going to, they're not going to go out there and try. I would say just make sure whatever industry you're going into, make sure you have an interest in it and learn as much as you possibly can. Read all the periodicals you can. Watch, listen to all the podcasts or watch the podcasts. Do as much research and homework consistently of what you're going to be doing, because your career or occupation will change, but they're always going to need leaders and people that are go-getters and people that understand the industry. So just don't sit there and do your 9 to 5. Do your extra work, do your homework, do your training, learn as much as possible, and be the best worker you can, because it's always going to be a tough marketplace. It always has been a tough marketplace. Nobody's going to knock at your door with the greatest career. It's up to you to find it. And it was that way 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. There's no silver bullet in this one. You have to do the work or you won't be satisfied. So try to do the work and you'll have some type of satisfaction with your work and your labor and your joy for the workforce.
Mr. Mike Wysocki, my teacher author of the month of August, award-winning author. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your book, Careers by the People?
Thank you, Daniel, for everything.
Yes, so where do people can buy your book, Mr. Mike?
Yep. They can go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Itasca, who distributes my book. They can buy directly from them too. Even places out there like, I can go to Walmart too, I believe I've covered it. So it's all over there, and it's an ebook form too. So wherever you get your ebooks, you can pick one up there as well. And plus I have 120 plus videos on YouTube. You can watch them. And I got a Udemy course as well. So yeah, I'm out there and I'm trying to do my best to help with career readiness.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Mike Wysocki, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Mike, thank you so much for your time.
Daniel, thank you very much. It's been an honor, and I appreciate all your time and effort.
More to come, people. See you soon.